All right, thank you very much, Janice. Well, French fighter jets struck ISIS-controlled areas, as we showed you, in Syria in response to the attacks in Paris. But what should the U.S. do? Right now, we turn to our panel. Former U.S. Army Ranger Captain Matt Bacik, whose honors include the Bronze Star and 3 Purple Hearts, and former Senior Director of Strategic Communication for the U.S. Agency for International Development in Afghanistan. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. So I've heard all weekend more than one military expert say that you can't bomb an ideology. That, basically that means you can't just bomb ISIS back to the Stone Age. So what should our response be? And I'm talking about us, I mean the U.S. and its allies.
Right. I think that, first of all, yeah, we won't be able to just bomb them into the Stone Age, but we are not currently bombing all the targets and destroying and engaging all the targets that are open to us. Anytime one of these attacks occur, the first thing you hear about are the French or the Russians or the U.S. hitting strategic ISIS headquarters buildings. So if we know where these headquarters buildings are right now today, like, why don't we destroy them right now? So I think that is step one.
Maybe proactive and not reactive. But Richard, let me ask you, if we're talking about ground troops at some point, ISIS is basically the size of a country right now. They've established their caliphate. So how big of a force are we talking?
I would defer to Matt in terms of the size of the force, but I think the question we also need to think about is who pays for it. Only 0.5% of the population currently serves. We've had 13 years of war. And the challenges for this country of being able to put boots on the ground halfway across the globe, and at the end result, we're going to have more deaths and a lot more injuries. And we need to be honest with ourselves in terms of what we are willing to pay, the cost, because there is a cost in lives, there's a cost in dollars, another $1 trillion possibly, and that's real.
So how bad do we want to beat them? And basically, how many troops are you thinking, Matt?
100,000 troops.
Well, that's a huge force, obviously. So from the outside looking in, though, it just appears that ISIS, they have intelligence strengths. We seem to have deficiencies. I mean, they're using social media. They're communicating through that. We understand a PlayStation 4 has now been confiscated, could have been used for communication. So what kind of strides are needed here in intelligence?
There's General Stan McChrystal in Iraq and Afghanistan. His big thing was to build a network around the terrorist network, right? And I think that is the only way we're going to be able to get in and try to find where the source of these communications are. The enemy is very smart, they're adaptable, they're always going to come up with new ways that we haven't thought of before. But until we get in there with them and build a network around their network, we're not going to have that type of access.
Richard, I got to ask you real quickly, the issue's been brought up. Do we need to strengthen our language as a country in terms of this, the democratic debate? They wouldn't call it radical Islam. As you know, the president has not done the same. So does that really matter? Does the language, is that significant?
I think the language is significant. I think we need to call it what it is. There is a radical Islam, and there are groups of people out here who want to destroy this country and who are willing to die to do so. And I think that creates an additional challenge, because if you're willing to die to reach your end, to strike terror and to harm and kill others, it makes it that much more difficult.
Matt, I want to get to this last point just real quickly. The FBI director confirmed that they've got over 900 right now ongoing investigations of possible ISIS cases in all 50 states right now. And you got a lot of soft targets, as we know here. Then you had the situation of possibly us taking in some migrants from Syria. So how should we handle that issue? Should we keep them out?
I would be very cautious if we don't have a control of what's going on right now. I would be very cautious of bringing in additional potential threats.
Richard?
I think we've got to be doubly careful. We got to check and verify, and it may require us to stop to make sure that we have all systems in place, because systems are ran by humans, and that means that they're fallible and mistakes can be made, and all you need is one mistake to get one person in, and that could be a situation. I likewise think we need to know that there are people already here. So while we're concerned about people coming, we need to acknowledge that there are people already in this country, some legally and otherwise, who can do harm.
That is very sobering. Guys, we're out of time. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Matt, thank you for your service too as well. All right.